The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Phixated Podcast. I am your host, Mike Over It, Azzy, and I am joined by firmly in denial, Regzy Boo. Man, we are in two different places tonight, my friend, but we'll get there.
We'll get there. Everyone grieves differently.
No, yeah, I was good by about. I woke up slow yesterday. I'm sorry, on Tuesday. Yeah, yesterday, right? Yeah. I woke up slowly on Wednesday morning. Really had a hard time getting out of bed. But once I got going with my day, I was like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
time to move on.
Wednesday's my in the office day, so people know I'm the Philly guy. So everyone was coming up and asking, how you doing? Oh man, that was tough. So that was all day. And then Cole, my oldest, has baseball practice. All the guys at all the dads at baseball know we're Phillies fans. So then it was back to asking, oh bummer, going back, essentially having to go back through it.
Yeah.
So I think I haven't accelerated it any. I had to relive it a few times.
Yeah, well, I think that honestly, and again, you said it, everybody grieves differently. I've relived it a bunch, right? I relived it with my parents, relived it with my cousin. I relived it a lot over the last couple of days, and that helps me. Honestly, coming onto the show right afterward and reliving it helped me. Being able to kind of talk through where we thought it went wrong.
Yeah.
What we thought they needed to do, right? Those things sort of helped me to get through it, because those things didn't happen. We can't change it, right? So, yeah. We said we weren't gonna talk about the Phillies tonight. We said we were gonna avoid them tonight. However, I don't think either of us knew that they were gonna do their end of year sort of, State of the Union conversations with Topper and Dave today, and they did. So because of that, we are going to talk a little Phillies in the middle of the show. We're going to kind of recap what they said and react to that, because they both Dave had what, a 45-minute.
Yeah, it was a decent amount of time.
What was Topper's? Because again, I didn't get to watch his.
Topper's was 20-ish, maybe half an hour.
It seemed like that based on what I saw in terms of the reports after it. Here's what he said. Here were the key takeaways. Once I saw those, it felt like it was less, because Dave's recap was, a solid article.
Yeah, right.
So we're going to talk about that. We're going to end with a little bit of Sixers, how he does it again. But we're also going to hone in on this weekend's matchup. They'll be done with the Commanders after Sunday. So we're going to hone in on that matchup as a preview and sort of go from there. But Regz, we're starting with the team that brings the freshest hope to Philadelphia, the Philadelphia 76ers, who are in action as we speak. There's 4 minutes left in their first game matchup with the Milwaukee Bucks. And I'm very confused, Regz.
Yeah.
As to something that just happened. You're going to see it here in a moment. I know you're a little behind me. Giannis Antetokounmpo just threw up an air ball, got it himself, and scored. So I don't know if they're going to look at that at a timeout, if that's reviewable during a timeout. But they're not looking at it. And right now, the Sixers are now going to be down 4 because of this turn of events. So I'm curious to know, do they look at that then?
I don't know, but it's
clear.
You can't do that.
That's about as clear as it gets.
Because then it goes, he hits a 3, he passes it out for a 3, right?
Yeah,
for Dame, and then he comes back and gets an and one off another miss by Joel, which is 4 in a row that I think I've seen.
Yeah. Honestly, we're going to talk about this here in a second. They've got to be able to look at that. It's almost like a shot clock violation, whether or not it hits the rim or their foot being on the line.
I don't think they can look at that.
I mean, that's awful.
That's really bad.
That's an egregious. Like, we just got done having to deal with officials or umpires in baseball, and we're already doing it in the NBA,
Yep.
man. Like, we are so back. We are so back.
Well, and then who's the Jamoke calling the game on TNT right now?
Yeah, Brian Anderson.
Right.
And you know what? You know what? He's calling the Eagles game.
Oh my goodness, seriously?
Mm-hmm.
That's terrible.
Yeah. He's calling the Eagles game on Sunday. Yeah, this game's falling apart right now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This is insane. These officials are absolutely falling apart.
He just fell down.
Yeah, he just fell down. Honestly.
And the referee closer to the play went like this to Crowder.
Yeah.
He's like, nope,
Yeah.
you're not getting away with that. And then the guy on the opposite side of the court calls it.
Yeah, this is the NBA, man. Like,
That's good
firmly,
stuff.
we are firmly back with the NBA and the officiating. Whoo, baby. So real quickly, I don't know. We didn't do a whole lot with the preview, and this, we kind of fell in this trap last year because of how well the Phillies were playing and the Eagles were playing. I don't know that we'll fall in this trap this year, but there might be times we miss based on what's going on with the other two teams. But this wasn't a game, when you look at it with the James Harden situation, that I expected the Sixers to win. It doesn't look like they're going to win it based off of all the momentum caused by the dudes in stripes. But they're playing pretty well, Regz. Like, they've missed a lot of free throws. They left a lot of meat on the bone in that regard, but they're playing pretty good basketball right now. At least, tonight. Bench scoring, something that the Sixers have never really gotten before. They're getting from Kelly Ubre. They haven't gotten it many other places. Ubre's played super well. Joel has been playing a lot, and I think that might be why we're seeing what we're seeing from him right now. He played the entire first quarter, pretty much the entire third quarter, with little breathers in the second and the fourth. And I do think you might be seeing some of the legs. There's going to be conditioning in this for him. And they just called another foul. This is ridiculous. On Lillard kicking his legs into Ubre. This is insane.
That was a foul?
They're showing the replay right now. Oh my gosh.
Ubre was standing there on purpose to not foul him.
He put his hand up. This is wild. Regz, there is this piece of me with
Tyrese
the NBA
got slapped in the offhand from behind, and they didn't call a foul.
No, this is one of these things, Regz, where this is where it feels like it's hard to buy into the NBA. Because what's the big story tonight in this game?
Yeah, Lillard and
the
Giannis.
big story is Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo. The second the Sixers got up 8, everything changed.
They missed a travel. Missed a fake
over the back on Giannis.
Yeah, missed an over the back. The opposite official called a foul when the guy standing closest to the play looked at Crowder and said, "No." You're like, "No, you're not getting away with that."
Missed the clear I mean, the dude was looking right at the ball on the travel.
Didn't call that Maxey where he got hit on the offhand, shot, which is exactly what just happened to Dame Lillard.
Yep. Listen, the story is the story is the story. Yeah. And I think they're 6.5-point favorites. Look at the score right now with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
6-point game.
Interesting.
It's just so interesting with the NBA, which makes it hard to buy in, man. Like, it just makes it.
This is why I watched the YouTube highlights after the game.
Yeah. I mean, there was just nothing on tonight, so I turned it on.
I get it.
And here we are. But yeah, I think, they played. The thing about Nick Nurse is the difference in who is. I don't know what they're talking about here. They're talking about something. The difference is who's on the floor and when they're on the floor. He definitely has a different way of doing things than Doc. I haven't quite gotten a feel for what the offense is going to look like yet.
Yeah.
But there's a definitive difference in the way that he runs his rotations.
Yeah.
And who's out there when. And he's clearly going to use Joel a lot. And there are going to be games we talked about where they don't need Joel out there a lot because they're going to be beating some bad teams by some big numbers. It's gonna be funny because the Sixers are gonna win like 50 games,
Yeah.
but end up getting blown out in the playoffs again.
Right.
It's just what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like that's just what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But look, tonight they competed. They were getting their doors blown off at one point, made a run before half, got it to within like 8, and have really done a nice job of staying in the game. And you can tell Nurse is, you know, not super pumped about the officiating right now. Definitely not pleased and in their ears. But
yeah, he's not afraid to do that. That's for sure.
There's definitely a difference. There's definitely a difference on the sidelines. So it'll be fun to follow them this year a little bit and sort of see. I like the depth and I like the way he uses the depth. We've seen like 10 different guys tonight.
But I also just think, look at the difference in the energy, or like, this is why for all the people who are like, the Sixers are better with James Harden, I was like, maybe.
I'm one. I said it.
But like, ultimately, if your team needs Tyrese Maxey to be better and like needs guys to be able to play when they're called upon, like, you have to be able to play them more. You have to be able to get them the ball a little bit more.
Yeah.
And like that's not allowed to happen with James Harden on the court.
Yeah, I think we've seen it a little bit tonight. Maxey's been able to make some plays. I do think the plan is they just want to trade him. They just can't find the deal.
Yeah, who would take him? Who wants a guy like that right now?
And that hurts. And you know, I don't think he realizes what he's done to his own trade value.
Oh,
like, I think he's so blinded to it, which makes it hard to deal him.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what the announcement is here. It doesn't look like the Bucks fans are like, oh nope, they got excited. So I think that call got overturned. Successful challenge. The Sixers will be, I don't know if they get the ball back or if it's a jump ball or what the situation is, but they pulled that.
And then
back.
they call a foul on the Bucks and it gets taken away.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. They called a foul on the Bucks and took it away.
2 referees called the foul too.
Yeah. Two, the dude up top and the dude on the baseline both. I mean, there was clear contact.
Good stuff.
But I mean, look, it's a home opener in Milwaukee for Dame and Giannis. So, dude, look at Nick Nurse absolutely losing his mind right now. Oh, and it's Bucks ball.
7 in a row, he said.
And it's Bucks ball on top of it. Wow, man. Wow. Well, chalk it up. 0-1 for the Sixers.
Yeah.
But they played their tails off. Like, they went in and gave the Bucks a game. If not for the dudes in black and gray towards the end here, they might have snuck out with a 16-2 run in the last 45. You wonder why. You gotta wonder why. The NBA, man, a show it is. And another foul. And one. No way. Well, on to the next thing. Here it is. Yeah, I mean, that's sure. But, okay. There was clearly far more contact on the Embiid play than that one. Regz is silently smiling.
It's just because this is why I don't watch the NBA. Like, if you want my honest opinion, this is why. How can professional basketball referees miss an air ball into the person who shot it, caught it? That's called a travel, for those who don't know.
Yeah.
And then they missed Maxey getting hit on the offhand on a 3 from behind. Like, when you ever slap at anyone from behind,
it's a foul.
Like, it's a foul. I don't care what happened. And then from there, it's just, lots of cool stuff happening.
Yeah, a lot of fun. So we'll leave this here. We're not even gonna let, if it ends up being a loss, which it clearly looks like it's going to be. If they come back by some miracle, we will certainly let you know of that miracle. But with 2.5 to play, down 9, I don't foresee that being the case. Although
Nah.
Tyrese Maxey just banged a 3. So let's move to the Phils, man.
All
I
right.
know again we said we weren't going to talk about the Phillies, but hard not to. Like we're not going to talk about the Diamondback series. We're not going to get back into that. We're simply just going to talk about what went down today at Citizens Bank with the two press conferences. The media got to meet with President of Baseball Ops Dave Dombrowski, and they got to meet with manager Rob Thomson. The Phillies did release their bullpen coach today, and they did release their assistant hitting coach today. And Dombrowski talked about the hitting coach situation, which I thought was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to know the role there. You almost makes you think that he's in charge of like the scouting end of things and the chase pitches, things like that. But we don't know. So where do you want to start here? You want to start with Topper? Like you want to start there and then talk about Dave's? I found Dave's interview and at least the recap to be much more interesting in terms of what he talked about.
Yeah, I agree. If you want to hit the topper points quickly, we can do that. Get into the
What
real
struck
interesting
you?
stuff.
What struck you about the Topper conversation?
I think, like, look, he's the manager. He's supposed to kind of go up there and just be like, look, I missed some stuff. Maybe would have tried things a little differently, knowing what we know now. But I don't know. So that stuff's kind of expected. I thought overall all the Rojas talk was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
No one really asked about Kimbrel specifically. They kind of just asked about I mean there were a couple of questions about Sir, which I thought were interesting.
Yeah.
Again, he didn't really reveal anything or kind of give anything away other than to say, like, look, yeah, do I wish we had done some stuff better? Like, of course I do. Do I wish that I had maybe done this or that or that? Of course I do. No one had a good explanation for why the team just kind of went cold. Because they like Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thomson weren't the ones swinging the bats. They aren't going to have an answer.
Right.
So I guess it was just interesting that it was interesting the Rojas talk, and it was interesting. I do think that one of the things Rob Thomson kind of needs to do as a manager overall is just kind of figure out his decision-making process. At the beginning of the season, he was over-managing. Like, that's what was going on. He was overthinking everything. He was getting, like, we call it too cute, and all the decisions didn't go well. So that is what it is. And then by the end, he was kind of not the complete opposite. I won't say that, but he was, like, again, sticking with Kimbrel a second night in a row, or Kerkering a second night in a row. Like, those are almost the other way of, like, I'm the I trust my guys guy. So I have to, to bear that out, I have to, like, be willing to put them back out there. And it's like, well, no, you don't. Like, it's fine. You can do something else.
Mm-hmm.
So I just am hoping that, like, look, it's his first full year as a manager. He came in halfway through last year. Obviously the players feel, like him a lot. I just think, like, I don't know. He's been a manager for a year and a half. It's different than being the bench coach.
Yeah.
It's just different. So hopefully we'll just see a continued sort of evolution of his decision-making process and maybe of just the feel for those kinds of things.
Yeah, I that struck me too. I did appreciate him sort of talking to and taking accountability for some of the decisions. Like, he could have easily said, yeah, no, that's what we thought was best. And I would do the same thing again if I had the chance
Yeah.
to. Like, he could absolutely say that. knowing that some of these dudes are going to be his guys moving forward, some are not. But he said, like, I would do X, Y, Z. Like, he wasn't specific, but I think we knew what he would do differently. Like, I think we get a sense for, you know, I don't know if he would have changed the lineup. I really don't, Regs. Like, I don't know who else is hitting in those spots. But I think bullpen wise, he probably would have done some things different.
Right.
Anyway, yeah. So that struck me. It also struck me when they asked him about his contract. Not as much Dave. Like, that didn't strike me a whole lot. Dave was sort of whatever about it. The president GM speak. But when Topper said, like, look, we haven't had the conversation, but I will say these have been the best 2 years of my career. I do believe that. Like, yeah, he spent his entire career in a place where they win a lot, right? But it's so business there. Like, we have friends who are Yankee fans who will constantly say, like, when you go to a Yankee game, it is all business. Like, you have your diehards, but it's not like that. And certainly, I think, Topper's really enjoyed this city. He's enjoyed this organization. He's enjoyed these players. And as someone posted today, and it kind of drove me nuts, is Topper the right guy for this job? Should he be fired? And I'm like, stop. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, this team has been in a situation where they haven't won crap. And now, they're winning. And we're going to go out there and say, oh, we don't know if he's the right guy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what we're going to say. Like, that's the plan.
Right.
By the way, the Sixers just lost by a point.
Yeah.
And that now I got to turn it off because I'm so mad about what happened. So, like, we need to stop that conversation before it continues.
Yeah. Look, we went 11 years without getting in the playoffs.
Right. And he turned the entire season around last year, got him to 90 wins after a brutal start this year, which we're going to talk about in a bit. I liked his reflections today. I was really a fan of the things that he said. I was really a fan of the accountability that he took. I was a fan of the way he kind of ate the Taiwan Walker stuff and said, look, we've talked about it. I'm going to reach out to him the next day or so, but I don't feel like anything's fractured. And I believe that. Like, I believe that. I'm sure Taiwan is not happy, and I'm glad he's not happy. Dave talked about this. It's probably a good time to transition over to the Dave stuff. But Dave was very, like, open about why Taiwan didn't pitch. Like, didn't hide.
Oh, yeah. That was a huge, like, kind of, not revelation, but sort of piece of detail that.
Yeah. Like now during the like one of his press conferences before game 4, Topper said, or before, like, between series, Topper said, we still haven't decided. Both guys threw. Both guys were a little rusty. That's what he said. Today, Dave said, for those of you that don't know, let me start here. Taiwan, after at like midnight, the night that they lost, tweeted out, the hate is real or something like that. What was it?
Or something, right?
Disrespect is real. Yeah, I thought he meant that it was because the Diamondbacks planted the flag in the grass.
Yeah.
That was clearly not what he meant, Regs. Because someone tweeted back at him, yeah, the disrespect is real from your manager for not pitching you. A couple other people tweeted about Topper. He liked those tweets. So Dave was asked about it. So was Topper. Topper said he's going to reach out to him in the next couple. Dave's answer, much more enlightening from the perspective of, look, like, yeah, we're going to reach out. We're going to talk to him. But the story behind that is that we had both of them throw live in between series.
Yeah.
And honestly, he couldn't throw strikes.
Yeah.
Like, that was the answer. Like, not verbatim, but that was the answer.
Right.
The answer was he didn't throw strikes. So we didn't put him out there. Now, he did mention, he was available in the bullpen and this, that, the other. But clearly they weren't confident in him. And that kind of gives us our answer about why not Taiwan? If he can't throw strikes in a simulated situation, what's to make you believe that you can in a And again, I still wish they would have had a plan for extending that,
right?
Extending that game a little bit further with relievers. And they didn't. That was very evident. They didn't have a plan. I think the plan was Strom for 2 and he threw 20 pitches.
Yeah.
Can't depend on Matt Strom to go 2 innings.
Right.
There's a lot of pitches. So I just found that
Yeah.
really interesting that Dave came right out about that. Anything to add there?
No, I think it's just it kind of. I mean, look, be as mad as you want about it, but you had a chance to show that you were ready to do it, and you weren't ready. The other guy was. So
Yeah.
say what you want about being disrespected, but you had your shot to prove that you were the guy that they could go to, and you didn't pitch well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless
For
of the
sure.
situation, like, you know what they're doing. Like, you know this is essentially a tryout to be the starter in that game.
Yep.
Like, you
Yep.
want it, like, why is it just handed to you? Because you signed the contract?
Yeah.
Who cares? This is the playoffs, man. We need the guys who can throw. So, whatever.
It just really caught my attention. But in that same breath, there was a lot of conversation about the bullpen. They asked about, did you see a need now because you had guys burn out? And again, I thought the reporters did a really nice job of not just throwing Kimbrel's bus.
Yeah.
But you saw some guys burn out. Does this make you believe that you need an all-star, legitimate all-star closer? And Dave was like, no. Like, we don't. Obviously, we're going to look at ways to address it, and they are going to bring in more bullpen help.
Yeah.
Because as of this moment, their bullpen consists of Jeff Hoffman, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Jose Alvarado, Gregory Soto, Matt Strom, and probably Dylan Covey. And I might be missing somebody that is like I'm just drawing a. Oh, and Kirk Ring. Those are your 7 right now, and you're probably looking to get one more high leverage out of the bullpen. And maybe Covey's in AAA next year because he has an option. So that,
I mean, why can't Kirk Ring be in AAA?
Could be. He very well could be. I think he's probably in the same stance as Rojas.
Right.
There's a good chance that's possible. But, they still have Nick Nelson down there. Connor Brogdon disappeared this year. There are internal options that they could look at. But my guess is with all the money coming off the books that they're going to go. And I really hope it's not like your 1 year, $10 million deal like they've done the last couple of years. Although I think it's probably going to be. Some interesting points he made about the bullpen, though. And this is why I think maybe they don't go get a closer. I think the intention was, we're going to try Soto a little bit at closer. But he talked about how not getting Soto here in enough time this year didn't give them the chance to get their hands on him early enough. So they couldn't really change some of the things they wanted to change.
Right.
Which will lead to an interesting storyline next spring of what does Gregory Soto look like? Because if they do get their hands on him in the way that they're hoping to, is it possible that he becomes the closer? If they can fix whatever. I mean, look, if you can fix Jose Alvarado's control, you can fix Gregory Soto's control. Right? So, again, I really feel like they need another high leverage. Sir Anthony could certainly turn it around. But they've got 3 pretty good left-handed high leverage guys.
Yeah.
They do. They've got 2 guys who we don't know about next year. I think Hoffman's still a wild card, right? He did it this year. Bullpen arms are a dime a dozen and can go out as fast as they're lit.
Yeah.
And Sir Anthony's been super inconsistent. So I would love to see them go get an arm that they can depend on as a right-handed arm to add to this bullpen. But it's very clear they're not going to go spend big on a closer.
Yeah. Again, I don't know with Alvarado, and if you are saying that, like, you think with some time off and an off season with your coaching staff that Soto can be that much better. Something's just a little bit off with Sir Anthony mechanically. I don't know if we saw him I don't think it was getting tired this year. I think just he couldn't sort of figure out the mechanics he practically abandoned the slider throughout the entire playoffs. He maybe threw it 4 times. And that was a pitch that was really good for him 2 years ago. Something mechanically was off. you hope that they'll be able to figure that out. Like this coaching staff from the pitcher's perspective has shown the ability to, like, again, they saw that thing with the Renzen's changeup. Like Cotham is looking at the most minute details to get these guys in the position to pitch better. So I have no doubt that they'll find some things. Look, it's up to the player to ultimately execute that. But you're right. They need another right-hander because I would have Kirkring in AAA. I know he pitched like one. He pitched one game there, right, before he came up.
Mm-hmm.
And look, you put him in a huge situation. I'm not knocking Orion Kirkring for coming in after being in high A and pitching in the NLCS and like kind of stumbling. Like, duh. Like,
yeah.
Unless he's the next like Mariano Rivera all of a sudden, like this.
Well, it's funny that you say that, and I'm not saying he's going to be the next. Please don't take my jumping in there as I think he can be. But what I think he needs is another pitch, and I would love to see him develop a cutter.
Yeah.
I think the cutter sort of takes people off of the slider fastball combination. I still think that's a devastating 1-2 punch that he has when he strikes. But I think he needs one more pitch just to take people off of it.
Yeah.
And Mariano went and developed one. And it's all that he threw the rest of the career. Not saying that's what's going to happen. Not saying that we're getting the next version of that. But I think it can make him much more effective if he just gets a show pitch.
Yeah.
A pitch that people know is there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm curious to see what the plan is for the bullpen, but clearly not going after a guy like Josh Hader. That is 100% out of the question.
Yeah.
As it should be. That guy's an ass. So, all right, let's jump to Rhys here. I don't think there's a whole lot to say other than my initial vibe from the Dave comments when they asked about Rhys. It doesn't feel like he's going to be back.
Yeah.
Which kind of hurts.
It does. I just think. So look, when you think about, and you put this in one of your texts to me, really the only way that works is that Bryce is willing to go back to the outfield. And I guess you move Castellanos to left and have Marsh play center.
Right.
That would be how you kind of fix that.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm honest, I know Bryce Harper was saying the right things, and I'm not saying Bryce is doing this maliciously by any means, but I think Bryce is probably going to say he wants to be a first baseman. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But it also then gets into, so if Bryce says he wants to go to right field, but you still kind of want the defense of Martian left and maybe Pache instead of Rojas, or if one of your goals is to go out and get like a true major league center fielder, at least from the offensive side, then I don't think they'd do this, but is it like a Castellanos all of a sudden becomes part of a trade package or something like that? Mm-hmm. It's weird to think about that. I'll be honest.
Very weird.
But that's sort of the alternate universe that you have to think of if they're signing Rhys back, because to sign him back just changes the entire complexity of everything. And then you have to get into, well, is Rhys like a better option than Castellanos? For as much as we're getting on Nick, like Rhys did this in the World Series. He was a no-show for the World Series. So it's not as if we're getting this guy who is bringing this immense amount of consistency. I get it that it's not the same way. Rhys never really chased. He just couldn't hit anything. He would just get in these modes where he just couldn't get the bat on the ball. Yeah. He never chased a ton of stuff.
Yeah,
right.
He just didn't hit the ball hard.
So it's the same thing, just in different ways. And I could see how someone could make the argument that the way Castellanos does it is eminently more frustrating.
Yes.
So It does stink, but I think the logical answer is that Bryce Harper is your first baseman. You are leaving Marsh in left field, and you are going with Pache for a time until you can possibly bring in. I don't know who. Again, I don't know the answer. I haven't looked around all the center fielders and contracts and things like that. But that's really where you're at. And again, I don't think Reese gives you. And look, it has to be factored in. He just tore his ACL. And so what happens if something gets tweaked again going around the bases? What happens if he takes a swing and the dirt comes out from under him and it just, he loses a little bit of confidence in its stability? All these things are a possibility that you have to consider.
Right.
It's a bummer, personally and emotionally, because we love Rhys Hoskins and he was here through all the crap and never gave the organization a problem. Never, was an issue like with the fans or the community or anything like that. Just kind of stuck it out and kept a positive attitude. And then, to not have him rewarded with being on teams like this for more than a year and some spring training is a bummer. It's a big bummer for that guy. But I just think when you really think about it, it's just, if the only reason they would consider it is if Bryce looked absolutely hopeless at first base, and that just wasn't the case.
Agreed. Yeah, I think what you mentioned there about, there's a lot that you said there, and I think we'll jump right into the Bryce and center field situation right away from here. But yeah, they're gonna look at Bryce and say, "What would you rather do?" And they were, Dave was very clear in saying, we still make the decision. It's still up to Rob and the front office to make the decision. We do want Bryce's input. I think the other thing to consider about Bryce is, look, we want him healthy for a long time. And what you said about Reese with running the bases and tweaking it, I worry about with Bryce rearing back and firing a ball.
Right.
And then his elbow.
Yeah, you just saw Shohei re-hurt the same elbow. I get it. He's being a pitcher. I understand.
Yeah.
It's different, but
right.
It's not impossible. This stuff happens.
Yeah. I worry about more. So I'd rather him standing at first base. Yes. He's already shown he can play there. He's got things to learn. He's still not perfect, but the amount of time he came, or as far as he came in the amount of time that he was working on, now he gets a full off season with Bobby Dickerson.
Yeah.
And they were kind of talking about that same thing with Trey Turner too. Like, giving him a full off season with Bobby Dickerson. And working on some things where, he didn't have that chance with Bobby because he played in the WBC.
Yeah.
And he didn't have an opportunity to do that. Bryce didn't have an opportunity to really work with him. He worked with him during his rehab, but not to probably the intensity and the extent that they wanted to work with him. That being said, you mentioned the Reese and Nick thing, right? That would be the only way, because I'm going to tell you right now, Kyle Schwarber's going.
Yeah.
Kyle Schwarber, dude, do you realize Kyle Schwarber was on base it was close to 240 times this year?
Yes. Mr. Genius Howard Eskin asked Topper about that with another one of his stupid ass questions that he asked.
Yeah, and my math might be wrong. I'm gonna double check that here, but it was definitely over 200 times. I don't think there were many people who got on
200 titimes.
He walked 125 times, and he had 115 hits. So 115 plus 126.
There you go.
It's 141 times, or 241 times. If you take away his 50 or 47 home runs that he hit, it's still like 190 times on base. Regz, he might have gotten on base more than everybody else on the team this year. That is why the guy hits leadoff, plain and simple. He's not going anywhere. So your obvious thing to balance out a lineup that has guys who chase, and there aren't many, because Dave talked about that too. He was asked about all the chasing, and he said, yeah, but We have maybe one or two guys that are known for that. Nick is one. He said you're never going to get that out of Nick.
Yeah.
And Trey did it more this year than he has in his career. The other thing about Trey, interestingly enough, is that he makes a lot of contact outside the zone, and this time he didn't. This year he did not. But they both seem very confident that Trey's going to. But back to my original thought. The idea of Nick going and Reese staying is the only possibility of Reese staying. And that would be contingent upon Bryce moving to the outfield, which I don't think he's going to do.
Yeah.
I think he's going to stay at first base. I think it's far more likely that they go into the year with the corner outfield, Marsh in left, Cassidy in right, and then you're right, Pache with, like, I just looked it up. There's not a ton out there, especially if you're going to look at a platoon. I'm going to go to my old faithful on a 1-year deal, Kevin Kiermaier. Bring him over. Let him platoon with Pache and play against right-handed pitching. He had a good year this year, 265, 8 home runs, always a really solid defensive center fielder. If
I
you
think
can get him here,
he won the fielding Bible for center fielder this year. Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's going to end up, he's at this point in his career, he's going to go year to year.
Yeah.
No one's signing him for multi-year contracts at this point. He's like 35.
Yeah.
So, you bring him in and you kind of let the two of them figure it out. The other option, Regs, is you could spend some more money here and go get Cody Bellinger and pay him to be your center field. And he's a guy who, clearly showed he was fixed this year. He does add another lefty to their lineup. In a lineup that has a bunch.
Yeah.
But gives you another bat that you can stick sort of in the middle. That could be the guy who hits behind whoever's hitting, right?
Yeah.
Like Stoddy doesn't really remind me type of hitter. So yeah, I think that's probably the plan in terms of Rojas too. He's gonna probably go to AAA. They said he's gonna have to earn it. And honestly, I thought what Dave said was fair about Rojas today. He said when they talked about bringing him up, his only question was, can we keep him above water?
Right.
We keep him above water offensively. And they said yes. And he said, we did. We absolutely
during the regular
kept him
season,
above water.
absolutely.
But once they got in the postseason, and it's very much, individualized at bats, and you get to see a guy so many times in a series, and you're facing playoff pitching, you're going to get exposed, and he got very much exposed offensively. So the book's out. He's got to go get fixed and learn how to not chase. His mentor is a chaser. He's becoming a chaser. So go get someone to put out there with Pache, a little platoon action to start the year, or get a guy who's going to play every day for a year. Well, Bellinger's probably more multi-year type of contract, which is unlikely because I think the main focus, Rag, is the starting pitching. And that they were both very clear that they want Aaron Nola.
Yeah.
But they made no guarantees that Aaron Nola is coming.
Yeah.
Which puts me at a solid 50-50 about Aaron Nola coming back. I mean, right? I'm not wrong. That's the vibe we got was we want him back.
Absolutely.
But can we get him back?
Yeah. Yeah. It just, I think of course they have a price in their minds. Like, is that maybe a little inflated because he's the hometown guy and all that? It also very much depends on who you think you have the possibility of going to get. Because, look, losing Aaron Nola leaves a huge hole at your number 2 spot.
Yeah.
It's not like they have someone ready to take that spot over, or someone that they're even willing to like try there. Like none of the guys on the rest of that staff are ready for that.
Correct.
So you have to go get someone. And now you have to determine A, if that's possible, and B, if those people that you can get are going to be as good as Aaron Nola. So it's a lot. I know, unfortunately, the last Nola start wasn't what we kind of wanted. Again, it's not as bad as everyone probably thinks it is.
Correct.
But it's just, I don't know. I don't know what to think. He was so good in the regular season 2 years ago. And then this year was just wildly inconsistent. But who knows? Maybe that mechanical change that everyone talked about that he worked on before the playoffs, or that they found, maybe that changes his whole regular season. Maybe that changes the way he pitches with guys on base. Maybe the second season with the pitch clock makes a huge difference. Now he's used to it. He can, spend the whole offseason like planning and working on it and all those things. Who knows?
Mhm.
Who knows?
Yeah, and we know he's going to be the most sought after free agent arm. Maybe, aside from what's his name from San Diego, who will also be sought after,
Snell,
good
right?
left. Yeah, thank you. Good left-hand pitching, not easy to find.
Yeah.
He's one of the best. So I think, there's definitely Aaron Nola is definitely going to be a guy who teams are looking at, who they value on. Aaron's made it clear he wants to be here. The organization clear he wants to be here. Or they want him here, sorry. I think they do everything they can to get it done. Bring him back. Maybe add some depth to the rotation. Dave talked a lot about depth today.
Mm-hmm.
And, grab like another, kind of middling veteran arm that they can throw in the rotation, or bounce between the bullpen and the rotation. But it's evident that both parties want something. It's just going to come down to, other teams. I think if the Phillies can be within $10 million, he'll come back.
Yeah.
He seems like the type of guy who just wants to be somewhere familiar.
Yeah.
And when you consider where he's from Louisiana. So what's down south for him? I mean, Atlanta's always looking for pitching, but is Atlanta going to pay top dollar for Aaron Nola?
Mm-hmm.
I doubt it. That's not their MO as an organization.
Yeah, right.
I don't think they get near that $200 million.
God, what kind of bummer would that be?
I just don't see it, man. I think it's far more likely, a team like the Mets offer him that kind of money. But I do not see him going to New York, man. He does not fit the New York MO at all.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Yankees. Like, they're gonna come calling, knocking on his door. Aaron Nola's not a Yankee. Like, that's not who he is. So if the Phillies can get within $10 million of what comes his way, I think it's likely that he returns. So we'll see there. The other thing real quickly we've talked about it on the show, kudos to us, is extending Zach Wheeler.
Yeah.
Certainly it looks like the right move now. It is the right move now. He's going to have to change the way he pitches if they give him like 2 to 3 more years after this. He's not going to be gassing 97, 98 when he's 36 years old. But, he's turned into a smarter pitcher. So we've seen guys do it. Guys like Scherzer have done it. Guys like Verlander have done it. Zach Wheeler has reinvented himself once. I feel like he can probably reinvent himself again.
Yeah.
And I would love to have him around when Andrew Painter's here.
Yeah.
Dave said it's possible he could be back next year, but their sights are set on 2025 for him. So I'd really like Zach Wheeler here in 2000 to mentor him through that process of coming back to the majors. So
it's like you said, maybe you're hoping that because of the Tommy John that maybe he's a year younger arm wise.
Yeah.
Than his age reflects, and that there is a little bit more left for this sort of mid-30s run.
If you get one more year of this, I mean, the contract's unbelievable, right? But you're really in baseball heaven if that's the case. And if you get 2 more like this out of him,
that's ridiculous.
What do you at that point you're talking like 6 years of this guy.
Yeah.
At the highest level he's ever pitched at. After that, it's whatever you get from him, you get, because you're hoping that Andrew Painter becomes. So clearly, your goal is to get Wheeler to carry you through 24 and 25. 24 and see what happens in 25 with Painter coming around.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't talk about this, but and neither did the press today. Another thing to consider might be getting Ranger under. He's ARB eligible, I think, just through this year. And it might be time to kind of consider that. Just something to throw out there, like a 3-year deal, something like that. All right, one last thing on the Phillies before we and wrap up the show. Dave talked about wanting to get off to a better start. He could not pinpoint what that looks like or what that means. He alluded to one of the reasons for, a slow start this year was WBC, and they had 15 guys missing from their roster, which is, I mean, that's very possible, right? Like that can cause a slow start. I actually thought it would make them better because they were like competitive, but they weren't in camp, they weren't with their teammates, so on and so on. I would love Regz for them to get off to a better start. Like he said, let's, instead of being 7 games under in June, let's try and be 7 games over and be on the 100-win pace. What a concept.
Yeah.
What a concept, Regz. So, I mean, I don't know what it takes to get there, but I'm glad that they're starting to think about that and plan for it. Because the last 2 years, they've had to do a lot of digging. And this team, with their roster, shouldn't have to do a lot of digging. So, there's got to be some research out there to show ways to get off to better starts. Because I believe this team can be a 100-win team. I believe with this roster, with this talent, they can win 100 games.
You know what I'm hoping? I'm hoping that the sort of mindset that this team came in to this year with was like, look, it'll be fine. Like, we know we're going back to the World Series, and with our 2 more wins, it'll be fine. Everything will be good. Doesn't matter how we start, all that stuff. I want them coming in ticked off.
Yeah.
Like, nobody let you off the hook, so letting them off the hook is sort of the wrong phrase, and I'm not thinking of the right words right now to be able to say it, but it's like, this was your fault.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
You found
the words, Regz.
You showed in 2 games at home to go back to the World Series and accomplish your goal, and now you know what everyone thinks about you. They think you're choke artists.
Yeah.
So how about you work your asses off in the off season, which I expect them to do. I think this team, especially with the work ethic of Bryce Harper, and I don't think Trey Turner is the kind of guy that's going to be happy with a season where he had the most errors in baseball and played the way he did. Stott will get the working because Bryce is right there, kind of forcing him to, even if he doesn't want to. And he proved last offseason that he's willing to go to Bobby Dickerson's house and be just around him to get better at his position. And the guy was a Gold Glove finalist for second base. I want them to come in being like, you shouldn't, still tasting the blood a little bit in their mouth, or metaphorically, having the scar should be right here when they look in the mirror. They shouldn't put, it's not somewhere that you should be able to hide it. I want them to feel it every time they step onto the baseball field.
Right.
Because if you talk about the goal is the World Series, and you talk about this team's only is built to win championships, cool, but you choked. So come back and maybe be we're winning this damn division now.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Everyone's gonna give you their best shot because they always are. You're the top of the NL again.
Topper said that. Yep.
But you need to have that. You need to have that attitude. The attitude can't be it'll be we'll get back there. This team's we're better now. That run was a run, but now it gave us showed us what it feels like. Well, now you failed this year. You failed. You didn't accomplish your goal. So what are you going to do now?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's some of it. They got to find a way to come out and be more intentional about being better early on.
Yeah.
Dave also talked about, look, we lost Reed right away, and that kind of got us off to a slow start. We didn't have Bryce. So we were trying to figure out life without the two of
Well, yeah,
them.
sure. Also something to consider.
Yeah, but certainly they need to come back hungry, angry. You know, they're one of the only teams in baseball that played at a 100-win pace from June. Why not play at a 100-win pace from
Yeah,
April?
right.
Like I don't whatever like just when you walk in the clubhouse, just have all your calendar. I don't care what it takes, but find a way to play 100-win baseball from the beginning of April until the end. And look, I invite the bye week or whatever it is. Like bring it on. Let's see, right? Like let's see.
Yeah.
I'd love to not have to sit through a freaking wild card
Yeah,
series
right.
this year. Like be the best team in the National League.
Yeah,
You
but
know?
yeah, that's the other point. It's like you haven't reached the ceiling yet.
Oh, they
Like
84 wins or whatever they were,
yeah.
87 wins last year, 90 wins this year. Like, come in and
It's
try
not
and
like
get the
there's
goal
no
should be
yeah.
100 wins.
It's not like there's no room for improvement for this team.
Oh God, no.
So there's no reason to sort of rest on your laurels and like act like, oh, well, everything will be fine if we just kind of cruise along. We'll get there and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It's like, no. Go and beat the Braves for the division.
Yeah.
Make them go to a wild card round and see what happens.
Yeah, see if
Like-
they can lose in the wild card round so we can say, oh, look, oh
Right.
my gosh, it wasn't the bye.
Yeah. But like that's the mentality that they all have to have.
Yeah.
Last year, 2 years ago, it was a crazy run. This year, they came into it thinking, well, our team is better. We signed Trey. Like,
Yeah.
we're a better baseball team. We'll figure it out. Even if we start slow, like it'll be fine.
Mhm.
Now it has to be like our goal is to show the entire league what this team really is.
Yeah.
And why they brought us together. Why these guys are these guys.
Mhm. I agree with that. 100% agree with that. And I think it's what the plan should be, what the plan will be. It's just can they execute it? Can
Yeah.
they show up in April and May and win baseball games?
Yeah.
We are a long way off.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hurt to start talking about it because they were talking about it today, and we just thought we give that recap because certainly we'll be following all the things that there's not going to be a whole lot over the next week,
Yeah.
right? There's not going to be a whole lot till you get to like winter meetings, but certainly as things come up, especially we'll be following the Nola and Reese offseason saga as closely as possible. But let's jump to the team who's still playing, still one of the best in football, the best team in the NFC as of now. Because those San Francisco 49ers couldn't get the job done on Monday night. Our guy Brock Purdy starting to look like just a normal schmo. Our guy Brock. Before we talk about this weekend's game against the Commanders, let's talk about how he's this dude. Kevin Byard.
Yeah.
We said, Howie, go get us a safety. Howie said, all right, I'll get you time all pro. Now Byard is he's a 30-year-old safety that came over to the Titans. It's a miracle to me that the Titans picked up the phone after what Howie did to them in the AJ Brown deal, but here we are. He gave up a 5th-round pick next year, 6th-round pick next year, and the Eagles have one of each of those in their pockets for the comp rounds. And then he swapped Terrell Edmonds. So thanks for everything. Thanks for the video.
Yeah, thanks for the baseball video.
That's pretty much the greatest thing he gave us in terms of anything in his short time here in
Yeah.
Philly. But it literally gives up nothing. They still have 8 picks, most of them being comp picks. So part of me believes that I don't think we're going to see anything else from Howie at this deadline. I think this was the move. I know people are still looking at corner. I think that they really like Ricks a lot. He's done a nice job in some short time, but like what he did to Ty Hill the other night on 3 or 4 different plays, that's big time from a rookie, an undrafted rookie. Bringing in an outside corner with all the money you have tied to Darius and Bradbury doesn't feel like the right move. Their 3 linebackers are super stout against the run, so I don't really know what they're going to do there. And they just brought in Julio Jones, so they're not going to have a receiver. If anything, I could see them dumping someone for a late day pick, like what's Barnett here doing? Like Smith's starting to play better now, so you could probably deal Barnett. So the Byard move is just enormous, dude. Like he gives them a ball hawking safety, who also can play in the slot. He's like ranked 8th in coverage in the NFL for safeties, like 15th overall in terms of safeties. That's a pretty special move. That's a move that says trying to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We feel like we have the offense to do it. We were lacking a little bit here. He and Reed, both Middle Tennessee State alums.
There you go.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that they're probably the only safety duo in NFL history to come from Middle Tennessee State. I'm just going to go out
We'll
on
have
a
to
limb
fact check you, but it sounds right.
fact check me, but I'm going to guess that's probably accurate. But Regz, like, I don't know that there's enough to say about how people are saying he's still ravaging the phones. So maybe he surprises us and comes out with something else. But what else do we say? Like every time this team has like this little hole, he goes and finds somebody to cover it up.
And I think the biggest thing is he's not making that much money. So it's not
this year.
Right. It's not only a good move for the time because it's a position of unbelievable need. And I like that he's kind of more of a veteran, so Reed can learn some things from him. I think it was the biggest glaring weakness that this team had. And he went out and got a veteran who, again, I think grew up in Philly for a little while of his life.
Yeah, he's from Philly. Yep. Born in Philly. Actually.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't pretend to know every player on every NFL team, so I can't. Like, I've never watched Kyle, this guy's highlight reel. So I don't know, so I go off what people tell me. Smarter people than I go off what they tell me. But look, by all accounts, and like you said, I sent you those sort of like Pro Football Focus rankings.
Yeah.
That's for this year. Like, so we're not talking about 2 years ago or anything like that. We're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And the guy, I think, has never missed a football game. Yeah. Thank you.
Knocking on wood.
So it's a great move. It was a huge need for this team. And to get a guy who has that kind of caliber, regardless of maybe if he's, on the older side, you call 30 old, but in NFL years, that's old.
Yeah.
But you get a guy who can help Reed Blankenship get better, who can, just be another leadership presence. And a guy who's probably really hungry to play on a good team. And yeah, it's awesome. It's great. Giving up nothing.
Yeah, nothing. The other thought here is his versatility. The fact that he can play in the slot and cover.
Yeah.
Is something that they didn't really have from safeties before. Like we love Reed. He's not necessarily a cover guy.
Right.
But that's huge. Here's another name to consider depending on what he'd be moved for. But the Patriots really stink. And if you're looking for secondary depth and a guy who's familiar with the city, who's familiar with the organization and has a lot of that same versatility from a secondary perspective, Jalen Mills is a guy that they could consider targeting. Like worst case scenario, you can put him on the outside. That's not where he thrives. We know that, but he played really well as a safety, and he can cover inside in the slot. So, if you're looking at depth, he's not a bad thought, especially with Bradley Roby going to miss his second game in as many weeks. So it might, I don't know what he'd cost them. I can't imagine it would be more than like a really late day 3 pick. So if Howie wants to dump like a 7th, He can't trade his comp picks because they don't know what they are yet.
Mhm.
But someone to consider. I think that would be a nice move. He's another veteran who knows the organization and could come in and help. And he's got that swag, man. He's just got that swag. So yeah, we're excited to see Kevin Byard's first game as a Bird this weekend, where they play the Commanders on the road. And we know that whenever they play the Commanders, it is a freaking nightmare.
Yeah.
You know, I've been watching Commanders games since that week. I have no idea how they play us that tough.
How Sam Howell did that?
Because the dude got smoked against the Giants last week.
Yeah.
So I don't get it. All of a sudden, like, the Commanders' offensive line turns into like 5 Hall of Famers. Sam Howell becomes completely unsackable.
Yeah.
Right? Like, everybody's open.
Yeah.
But we can do what we just did to the Dolphins?
Yeah. It's just weird. It's weird.
It's so weird to me. It's weird to me. And again, I'm not sitting here trying to disrespect the Commanders. It's not what I'm doing. I don't mean to. I know it sounds like that. But like, to defend myself even more, I picked them to be the second best team in the division this year. And at times they've looked like it, and other times they've not looked like it. But man, it would just be nice to have a freaking comfortable win.
I know,
against
right?
us. Hopefully, because they've seen them once now, like they can make that happen. They are 7-point road favorites, Regs. Which means
Again,
that
they just kind of got dismantled by the Giants. So
that Vegas feels like the Eagles are 10 points better than the Commies, but like, how?
Well, I mean,
Also, what a bad shorthand name.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
I'm never gonna call them that again. That sounded awful.
It's terrible
coming out of my mouth. But yeah, they are 7-point favorites. After what happened, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
In Philly?
I don't know, man. None of it makes a lot of sense.
So the Eagles get a lot of people back. Reed will be back.
Mm-hmm.
And by a lot of people, Reed will be back. Everybody else was healthy. There are a bunch of people. The practice list is limited, but Reed was full.
Yeah.
So, clearly he's a go for Sunday. So we'll see Reed and Byard playing together.
That's going to be
cool.
awesome. That's going to be great.
Yeah, and then you'll have your your veteran corners together. You're basically you have a fully healthy and talented defense.
Mm-hmm.
There's just not a whole lot of holes. And then offensively, I think I didn't see Quez's name. Did he go on the IR? Like, is he?
I think he did. Yeah.
Did he? Okay. Yeah. So I was gonna say I didn't see him on the practice report.
I'm almost
today,
positive he
injury
did.
report. I mean, it would make sense. He's not on the injury report anywhere.
Yeah.
So it would make sense. So really all they're missing is Bradley Roby's obviously of Eli Ricks this week in the slot. And honestly, he looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
In his moments against the Dolphins. So, not a whole lot to talk about here. We just saw them recently. They pretty much controlled the first half. The Eagles kind of took over in the second, but the defense let them down late. AJ Brown abused them.
Yeah.
That was sort of when AJ started his torrent streak of 125 yards receiving in 4 consecutive games. But that and I anticipate him having another big game, but I can also see the commander saying we're gonna let anybody else but him beat us.
I mean, Devontae's kind of due.
Yeah,
for a big game. Dallas obviously had his 2 games ago. Yeah, 2 games ago had his big.
Had a nice night this past week.
He did have a nice night. You're right. So Devontae's kind of the one who you're just waiting for another big game. It's been a couple weeks since he's kind of not shown up. He made some really tough catches against the Dolphins.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But again, he hasn't had his 10 for 130, kind of days that everyone knows he's capable of having.
Right.
So would love to see that.
It's the Julio Jones game. Is that what we're doing?
Can I just give him to Devontae? I need some help in my fantasy team. So if Devontae could have a big day, that'd be nice.
The Julio Jones game. Here it comes. He was on the field a bunch.
Yeah.
Like 20, 25 snaps. One more question here before we do our predictions and keys to this one. Concern level 1 to 10 on Jalen's
4.
Okay. I mean, again, he's not on the injury report.
And I think Elliot Shore Parks was tweeting some videos like of him running back and forth from drills or into practice and out of practice. And he's like, to me, he's at every practice, and he's like, to me, this looks exactly the same as how he runs.
Okay.
All the time.
Okay. He did have some big spurts in that game after he came back out at halftime.
Yeah.
Like right away, we were like, oh my gosh, he's hurt. And then he takes off 15 yards.
Yeah. With no limp or anything.
No, just full blast like he usually looks.
So, I mean, I think it's a 4. Obviously, I don't want something to be lingering with our quarterback.
Right.
I reserve, like, a 4 is that I really hope nothing's really wrong. I hope nothing else happens to it. And I hope he just gets through the week healthy, because to, like, lose him in a Commanders game would really suck. Like, there's just no reason for it. So just come out. Again, we'll talk about this in a second, but just everything seems to be that he's okay.
Right.
Keep it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do anything to make it worse.
Get him to the bye week, right? You have 2 weeks to the bye. You've got your week here with the Commanders, then you got the big weekend with Dallas right before the bye in Philly. And then you get the bye, and it's like an extended bye because they play the Chiefs coming out of the bye on Monday night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you get the extra day on top of the bye. Like it's almost like a 15-day ordeal that they have, which is not normal.
Yeah.
But beautiful.
Right.
You know? So get him to the bye, man. Like let this kid get there and breathe. And hopefully, things are good.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just kind of move along. I'd say I'm right at that 4 or 5 mark. Like clearly something was wrong. Mariota was something just wasn't right with him.
Yeah.
But he's a tough dude. I just hope he's not too tough for his own.
Yeah.
That's all. If need be, they can go to Marcus for a game or so. We talked about that. If it's necessary, I'd rather it be Dallas through Seattle.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But, Yeah.
That'd be no fun.
If there were a week to do it, this would have been the one. If this one backed up to the bye, they might have done it, Regz.
How about just go up 20 and sit him for the whole fourth quarter and like
That'd
half the third?
It'd be wonderful. So are you going to predict that into life here? Because we're going to go right into it. Your key to the game and prediction at -7, the Eagles are favored, 43.5 point total.
So my key to the game is a revenge game for this defense. Like, you should have been embarrassed about what happened the last time at home against this team. I get it. Some of their wide receivers are pretty good, but like, it's a rookie quarterback with an offensive line that is giving up a bunch of sacks. You just played the best offense in the NFL and held them to 10, essentially 10 points, because one of them was a defensive touchdown.
And the score they got was on a short field turnover.
Yeah. So come out and show us what this should have looked like at home against this team. And if you do that, the offense is going to put up points. And then, like you said, hopefully Jalen can be sitting down for most of the fourth quarter. Yeah, so my key is the defense. Just coming out and showing out again. Okay. Score-wise, I'm going to say 30-14.
I mean, we are always really close, man. We are always really close. My key is sort of twofold. I'm going to go on both sides here. keep the mojo going on offense. It felt like they had more of a flow offensively this week, especially in the second half. So I'd like to see more of that in a flow. I anticipate they're going to come out and throw the ball because that front for the Commanders is super.
Yeah.
Our front is tough. Their front, they got Bama boys up front and they ain't messing around. So I want to see more. I think we're going to see more throwing, but to keep that flow going. On the defensive side, like big dudes got to eat. So they do have more sacks at this point in the year than they did last year, by the way.
There you go.
So we might not be off here. But yeah, I want those dudes to eat up front. You said it. This offensive line is giving up a ton of sacks. Somehow the Eagles only had like 2 in that against the Commanders in Philly. Nolan Smith finally got his first on Sunday night, and he looked like he was shot out of a freaking cannon to get it. He looks like he's getting healthy, man. And if that's the case, it's going to be a nightmare because with them boys up front, Jalen Carter,
Hassan and Sweat played so well last week.
Yeah, Hassan blew up every single run that they tried on the outside.
Jordan Davis is also playing unbelievably well right now.
Yeah, they just, the dude eats up 2 gaps.
Yeah.
And Jalen Carter continues to just throws guys around.
Regz,
he might be the best player in the league next year. There's an argument to be made. He's one of the best players in the league right now, but next year he might be the best player in the league at 22 years old or whatever he is. And somehow he fell to the Eagles at 10. 9. They moved up for him, but it just baffles me. So I want to see them eat. I got 31-13. I do think it's, I think Jalen might have to play a drive in the 4th just to make it 31-13. And then, they can go to Mariota with an 18-point lead. Hopefully they'd go to him and let I don't know, though. You never know, man. You just never know. They might keep Jalen back there and let him hand the ball. Go from there. But I think they can build on. I think that Jet loss really pissed them off.
Yeah.
It really pissed them off. So, all right, real quick fixated here before we get going. It's been a little bit of a longer episode. We had a lot more to talk about tonight, man.
We did.
So for those of you that have been following us for a while, and if you're new, you're about to be clued in on one of our my side journey. I should say ours. Regz has really been a great support throughout the process, but I started writing a book back in November, December when I decided to leave my role as so it's about a year at this point. We're coming up on a year since I decided to sit down and start this project. And on Saturday, the book will be officially released and available for purchase on Amazon and so it is. This process has been unbelievable and so exciting and from the support of my family and friends to writing it and doing the editing and back and the advertising and the marketing and just all the ins and outs of it all. It's really been an unbelievable journey for me and a rewarding journey. I want everybody to kind of come along with me to the, for the excitement of what's happening. And honestly, it was written with the educators in mind. But I do think that even if you're not an educator, it really speaks to just being a good human and how we just lift each other up in our toughest times and what that can be. I wrote it to educators, but I think at the end of the day, it just talks to everyone. So if you're just looking for a book to kind of remind yourself of, the things that you can do and the ways that you can to just be a good person for somebody else. And I like to call it be someone for someone. Be a heartbeat for somebody, give them the energy, the oxygen. Go buy it, read it, give it a 5-star review, share it with someone that you love. But what an experience it's been for me. And I don't know what I'm going to do Saturday morning. I'm going to be like, I'm going to open Amazon the second I wake up to see it sitting there and just be able to see my name as an author is going to be pretty freaking cool. So yeah, man. So yeah, that's what I'm fixated on. I got 24, I guess 36 hours at this point. Probably less than that. To see my book officially for sale. Pretty cool.
Very cool. Very proud of you.
Thanks, man. Thanks. We'll have a beer for it. I have all your beer sitting in my refrigerator.
I think we're coming up to Hershey on Saturday night, so we're going to swing by.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I'm going to swing by.
Okay. Yeah, you definitely, keep me posted.
I will.
We're going to be in Penn State. They play at noon. So we should be, depending on when you get here.
We're doing the Halloween stuff at night, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So one way or the other, you'll get to us.
Yeah.
All right. That's perfect then. Cool. All right, everybody. Well, hey, thanks for listening. We will be back with you again next Thursday. I will be coming home from Knoxville, Tennessee, and I will be here with my good buddy Regz, and we will get you a recap of this game, kind of a look at what the Sixers have done, preview of whatever you coming next. So we will be back with you on Thursday night. Until then, make sure you follow us on all our social media platforms. Make sure you click subscribe if you're watching on YouTube below. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and rate there as well. Follow at the Phixated Pod on Twitter, at the Mic Drop 5 at Big Regz with a Z, and the Phixated fan page on Twitter as well. And click the merch link below in the show description. I bought a new hoodie, man. I went with a black one. So,
nice.
Yeah,
I think that's my next one. That's gonna be my next purchase also.
Yeah, I got the green one, but I'd like a black. So until then, we will talk to y'all next week. Take care of yourself, take care of somebody else, and go Birds, baby.
Go buy the man's book.
Oh yeah,
deep to right field, way up there and way out of here. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.